After a month of Monster Hunter World, Dragon Ball FighterZ, and Terrible Depression, there's been a dearth of videos on this channel, and I'm sorry about that. But now, it's finally time for me to return. Thanks for being patient with me, everyone. I meant to review the Steven Universe 2-parter quite some time ago, but better late than never. New Adventure Time episodes happen to be right around the corner, so it very much feels like it's now or never to get my thoughts into video form for those two latest Steven Universe episodes. So let's jump right into some preamble regarding Lars of the Stars. I'm very curious whether thought was given to make Lars' Space Adventures its own spin-off miniseries. While I did not really like the episode Lars of the Stars, I'm still interested in seeing more of Lars among the stars. I'd be down to see the pink zombie's journey from a scrawny, self-conscious, bitter young adult into a scrawny, self-conscious, bitter young adult who's also a space pirate captain and hides those insecurities beneath a newly acquired aura of bravado. I do find some of the Off-Colors members rather annoying though, and I'm not quite sure how much play they could get from multiple episodes.
I'm having a vision. We're about to be discovered!
That gimmick got old the second time it was played for laughs, and by the end of Lars of the Stars, it must have been done like 10 times throughout the series by now. I don't appreciate that as a running joke, sorry. As for Fluorite...
Let me check.
Well, if she did find another gem to fuse with like she was interested in...
Fluorite, how many gems are you now?
6. Maybe more if we meet the right gem.
Does that mean she would talk at an even slower pace than her current form? Because her pace of speech does get a little frustrating over time, and it takes a lot of time for her to say anything. That being said, they could probably downplay these annoying gimmicks if they were to make an 8 or 10 episode miniseries, and even if not, I would still be interested in watching episodes where Lars and the Off-Colors wreak havoc on Homeworld and rise to infamy as they fight the powers that be. A short miniseries on what Lars experienced might also alleviate the need to suspend our disbelief when it comes to what the Off-Colors accomplished in so little time. Or more specifically, how much Lars has accomplished and managed to learn. The exact amount of time Lars spent in space is unclear, but it couldn't have been too long. There's no indication of characters in Steven Universe experiencing time differently due to hyperspeed space travel, so space-time physics-y shenanigans can't be used as an excuse. Lars legitimately became competent at understanding the layout of Homeworld's colonies, the enemies chasing him, and he even became proficient enough to build a space fighter in what seems to be just several months. That last one is what pushed me over the edge personally. I knew I'd have to suspend my disbelief, but I didn't expect to have to swallow it quite this much. Lars created a prototype space fighter jet thingy by injecting an automobile's design into, I have to imagine, scrap Homeworld cruiser parts. Does Lars even drive? I can't even recall him ever driving a car, but if he has, let me know. I could just be failing to remember that. Either way, though...
The captain's experimental fighter jet that only he knows how to drive! It's too risky!
It's really not that hard to learn how to drive a car, and yeah, I'm just not buying it that the other Off-Colors couldn't easily learn this, especially seeing as how they're the ones piloting the main craft they're on. The Off-Colors who are fusions should have had plenty of prior experience performing their functions within Homeworld society before they decided to fuse and defect, so it makes sense for Fluorite and Rhodonite to have knowledge of how to pilot spacecraft. It also makes sense for them to pass their knowledge on to the rest once they initiated their plan to steal a spaceship and leave the planet they were stuck on. But now Lars surpassed them in his own special unique way, apparently, without even having a mechanic background or anything. It's just too much too fast. But like I said, a miniseries could really help at least alleviate the disbelief a little, or give more context to how things ended up the way they did. Listening to Emerald describe the adventures of the Off-Colors, those adventures seem like they'd be quite fun to witness directly.
It was a minor inconvenience when you stole my personal shuttle and crashed it on Upsilon 9. It was an insult when you impersonated Imperial officers during a cosmic jubilee. But to steal my Sun Incinerator is unacceptable!
On the topic of the Sun Incinerator, I actually have a follow-up question as well. If it's the fastest ship,
Good luck catching us. We stole your fastest ship!
then how does a warship, the Destiny Destroyer, catch up to it? Like, what was the point of establishing it as the fastest ship if we're gonna just entirely disregard that a few minutes later? That part was just like, what? Maybe a miniseries could clear some stuff up, maybe it would cause more disbelief and create additional plot holes, I don't know, but I couldn't help thinking about the possibility, so I really wanted to bring it up. Let me know what your thoughts would be on an 8 or 10 episode spin-off centering around the Off-Colors gang and their space adventures. At the start of this video, I mentioned that I did not like Lars of the Stars, but I haven't really followed up on that too much until now. Let's talk about what it actually was that dampened the episode for me, because it wasn't due to needing to suspend disbelief or any plot cohesion issues. No, my main complaint with the episode was very simple. I just did not find it that fun. Lars of the Stars did not engage me, and I think the lackluster execution is the primary reason for my lack of interest. Steven and Connie are supposed to be wowed by the new Captain Lars, but the dialogue between him and Emerald was so on rails that Lars backtalking to a high-ranking gem didn't seem impressive. Like, I know it was intended for the dialogue to be scripted in a way that was kinda cheesy and campy.
Bingo bongo.
But that campy sci-fi vibe that's given off also deprives the episode of tension, and it makes the accomplishments the Off-Colors managed to achieve feel less earned and more just kinda handed to them. Making the conversation between Lars and Emerald so campy makes everything feel like it was kind of inevitable, things would end up here no matter what, and that's also aided by us having had known about the Lars of the Stars event from way back. And thus, there was never a real sense of danger presented by Emerald and her Destiny Destroyer. At no point was I worried about the crew's fate whatsoever. Obviously, the episode was meant to be fun, with them using freeze frames and everything, but in my opinion, the comedic tone contrasted badly with the actual stakes at hand, and the experience didn't work for me personally. The pacing was also pretty wacky. Nearly as much time was given to Fluorite's unimportant dialogue as to Stevani taking on the Destiny Destroyer, but then again, when you decide to give a character a glacial rate of speech, I'm not sure how you're supposed to work around that. That space battle scene with a Starskipper facing off against the Destiny Destroyer also gets my nomination for one of the least interesting battles of Steven Universe. Everything about it, from the spaceship designs to the flight choreography, was really bland and uninspired. There was also no proper sense of scale established for how huge the Destiny Destroyer was supposed to be relative to the Starskipper, and so much for those shields Lars was talking about. Apparently, the Destiny Destroyer has no shielding to protect itself from the tiniest little jet fighters. Or the Starskipper packs a punch like Homeworld has never seen, because Lars is so amazing, because we just say he is now. He's a super smart, super cool guy when he's not having a mental breakdown. Which, let's talk about that scene. That's supposed to be the core emotional moment of the episode. Lars having a breakdown over Sadie managing to find some enjoyment in life, while Lars is still stuck in space. I am really quite conflicted on this scene. I appreciate how it demonstrates that Lars is still very mature and childish, and that he hasn't overcome his insecurities at all. They're right below the surface, just ready to erupt at a moment's notice. But at the same time, I couldn't quite help from rolling my eyes a little bit at the manner in which he freaks out. I also think making Lars bitter regarding Sadie, making him think Sadie is getting back at him, perhaps that might have been a misstep? I'm not sure on this either, my thoughts are still a bit jumbled. I feel maybe it would have made more sense for Lars to think Sadie moved on and tried to forget him, not necessarily trying to spite him. As is, Lars was made to be extremely vindictive, like really extremely vindictive. Maybe future episodes will focus on that character trait more. I certainly hope they do. I tried for a really long time to extrapolate further on why this scene somewhat missed the mark for me, but after a bunch of wasted time writing paragraphs I wasn't happy with and then deleting them, I'm just gonna go and settle with, it didn't work. Something about it didn't come together quite right for me, and I know that's a super vague cop-out, but I can't coalesce my thoughts into something I'm happy with at the moment. Maybe I'll revisit the topic in the future after we see where Lars' character arc goes from here, and what occurs with his flaws from here on out. I'm really curious for the show to explore the spontaneous vindictiveness he's capable of. I hope they don't just drop that aspect, because it's one thing to get upset that your friend is managing to enjoy her life while you're dead in space, but it's another thing to just completely blame her and accuse her of being out to get you. This just better not be the last time we see this character trait of Lars. I hope it's played with more in the future. So overall, it's just that many aspects of the execution didn't quite work for me, and the episode felt like a letdown. I was really excited for Lars of the Stars, but it ended up feeling really generic and trite, with the tension and pacing being all out of whack. I wasn't feeling much of anything by the time the title card for Jungle Moon popped up. I was kind of an emotionless husk, which all the more props to Jungle Moon, I guess, because I really liked Jungle Moon, despite transitioning into it with leftover disappointment. Next video coming out on this channel will be that review. See ya soon.